So I saw Obsession a couple nights ago, and dude, you know what? It was a pretty thoughtful movie. I mean, some version of the same idea has happened here and there. There is an old Twilight Zone episode that kind of bears resemblance to it. However, I will say that like the focus on like the toxicity of like both the male and female main characters in this film is honed in such a beautiful way. It's brought out of the actors in such a beautiful way, and the director knew what he's doing. By the way, I'm really happy to see that like a lot of YouTube creators are starting to Hollywood's actually starting to embrace them to the big screen. Maybe they really have just been like creatively bankrupt all this time, and now they actually are opening that door. So it's basically, you know, the typical story about the hopeless romantic who's in love with this chick who just feels so unobtainable. And I mean, honest to godly, it's kind of the dude's such a chicken about like telling her how he feels that really there's no answer. I mean, she might actually potentially go for it. You don't know. But he's such a chicken that he always feels that he misses out on that kind of thing. And there is sort of like an undertone of resentment there that I think is captured beautifully because, and this is something that Doug Walker said, in that like the creator, or in that like the dude who is the hopeless romantic in romantic comedies is perceived as sort of like this benevolent, you know, like character sort of a thing. This guy, I think, captured a way more grounded version of that, in that like he has no confidence and he's very awkward, and you can just see the lack of confidence in every word that he says to her. And you can see that kind of like underlying bitterness. And I feel that like a lot of dudes, yours truly included, have been to a degree that guy at one point or another, you know, where it's like, how come no nice girls talk to me? It's like, well, dude, it's because you're a chicken. They want a man who's going to go in there and friggin', you know, like it takes you a while to figure it out. Some people never grow out of that though. And that could be kind of creepy, you know? I mean, this dude is like high school, college age, so he's still a bit young. So there is like a relatable element there, but the movie does a good job of sort of showing you like, yeah, this is how this looks. It comes off a little creepy, frankly, you know, and it's not like deliberate, but that's just how it be, you know. Now, he basically happens upon this, he goes to this like witch shop or whatever, and they have this thing, I forget what the hell it's called, so we'll just call it a wish cracker, and he just breaks it, and you're allowed one wish, and the thing is very specific, one wish, no takesy backsies kind of a deal. So naturally he wishes like, you know, mind you, this is a scene where she literally gives him an opening. She literally says like, do you like me? Like kind of a thing. And he's like, yeah, you know, like as a friend kind of a thing. And she goes like, walking up the path to go home, and he's just like, idiot, 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 idiot. So he takes the thing out, makes the wish that she would love him like no other, breaks it, and then the rest ensues. Now I gotta tell you, man, that the lead actress in this film is fantastic. And just as this dude does an amazing job capturing that creepy, insecure kind of dude who, you know, who's just like hopeless with women kind of a thing, this chick, she captures a lot of the other end of the spectrum, okay? The insane, like, end of the spectrum, how crazy women can be. In this movie, and frankly, in Pearl, okay? There were a couple moments where I'm like, I know that look. You know, like, the two of them were great. I mean, and they sold this movie. And I mean, don't get me wrong, it was also the directing and the writing. Like, the guy who made this film knew what he was doing. And I really can't wait to see more films from him. It's basically all practical effects for the most part. There's nothing, I mean, there's certain shit they do with like the way she moves at certain points. And there's a lot of like moments in the film where the guy sort of has that look like from, you know, like the Pet Sematary remake, where it's sort of like, oh God, what did I do? You know, sort of a thing. And that's the thing, is that, you know, our protagonist isn't really a protagonist. And I think that Doug Walker focused a little bit too much on like he seemed to think that they were like winking at the romantic comedy audience. I don't think that at all. I think that they were trying to do a more accurate portrayal of this kind of dude. And there is a point in the film where it's like, okay, you are just a scumbag at this point, you know? Because I mean, initially it's like, as weird as it would be, the girl of your dreams throws herself at you, and you're going to be kind of like, did I die and go to heaven? No way are you going to actually believe that this stupid wish cracker thing like would actually make that happen, you know? So like in the beginning, you can kind of be like, okay, he just sort of stumbled into the shit. But after a certain point, it's like, okay, dude, it's like, you know, something's wrong and you're still like, you know, engaging. Like, and there's like the whole underlying idea of whatever the actual girl herself is going through, because it's really not her that's in love with him, and there is some part of her that's still in there, and that becomes like more apparent as the movie goes on. You know, the interesting thing is there's really no like makeup effect. There's a lot of things where she's standing kind of like partially concealed in shadow, and you're kind of like, oh man, what's she gonna look like when she walks out, you know? And I like the fact that they didn't really go for like any cheap, cheesy CGI jump scares or anything like that. There are jump scares in this movie, but this film is actually a lot better at building tension, really. It's a lot better at like having a long drawn out scene where you're kind of like waiting for it and you're like, dude, come on, Jesus. Like, you know, like, and it just doesn't happen. And then it will happen, you know. And there's one scene in particular. I might get into spoilers in a bit. I'll warn you before I do, okay? But there's one scene in particular where it's like, I've seen a million horror movies. I knew something was coming. I'm like, there's no freaking way. And then it happens, but it happens like they took the accelerator and they just cranked it up as far as it would go. And it just all happened so quickly that it was like, whoa! I mean, like me and my buddy Dr. Westlake like audibly exclaimed in theaters. We were like, whoa, dude. The basic plot has been done before, but the way in which it was executed, I can honestly say I've never really seen anything quite like it. And it's like, that's why we need more folks from YouTube and other like independent media sources like doing these movies, you know? Literally everybody that I trust on the internet was like, no, this is a solid one. This is a good movie. Actually, Doug Walker was probably the most critical of it, and I gotta be real, I disagree with a lot of what he said about it. So yes, it has my highest recommendation. It's scary. It's also deeply unnerving on like a really psychological level. Like, I mean, I don't know if I would put it quite up there with Hereditary, but it's along the same lines. They're ugly cousins of one another. Let's put it that way. The spoilers, all right? You have been warned. 3, 2, 1. That scene that I was talking about, there's this other chick, Sarah, who basically portrays that character, and she's cute, you know, and stuff like that, who always really kind of liked this guy the whole time. And, you know, she was just quiet herself and never really, you know, and didn't really understand why he was so obsessed with this chick who probably wanted nothing to do with him, you know? And we've all known that person too, that quiet girl who's like, hey, I'm here, you know, kind of a thing. And she was just such a good, benevolent character. In that particular scene, he sneaks out, right, from like under the grasp of this chick who's asleep. In that scene, by the way, that is unnerving enough, because while the demon or whatever the hell is inside of her is asleep, while she sleeps, okay, her actual consciousness comes out, and she's like, don't wake her up. Kill me. Please kill me. And there was a scene even earlier in the movie where she's creepily hiding in the corner of the room and just watching him. And he's like, what are you doing? And she says, I can't sleep. I have dreams that you don't love me, you know, like kind of a thing. And it's just like, so she's basically like, go back to sleep. I'm just going to stay here and watch you. And it's like, dude, it's so creepy, dude. It's so freaking creepy. Anyhow, all right, after he sneaks out, he doesn't wake this demon alter ego up or whatever. Okay. Finds out, basically gets confirmation from her that like, yeah, I'm in here and this, you know, kind of a thing. But then he goes to meet with this chick, Sarah, who had texted him. And they basically have kind of a nice scene together in the car where she admits, like, yeah, I've, like, that she's liked him the whole time, or at least it's inferred, kind of. But the entire time they're talking, you're seeing an awful lot of car window next to their head, you know, and any horror fans, like, she's going to run up. And sure as shit, okay, like right after the admission happens, you see her run up to the window and you're, oh, yep, here it is. But then she smashes her whole upper body through the window. And that in and of itself, you're like, whoa. But before you even have the chance to like adjust your brain to that, she's put a brick on the steering wheel and has begun bashing this chick's head into the brick. And I mean, like, with the first like smash, her face is just like caved in, and it's like, whoa. I mean, it went like, like it went so much. Again, this dude knew that a bunch of seasoned horror fans were going to be watching this movie, and he's like, I know that you know it's coming, but you don't know how it's coming, you know, like, and I don't know. I just found that particular scene to be particularly off-putting, and also, I mean, really kind of tragic, because you're like, this girl did nothing wrong. And really the movie itself is kind of a tragedy, because when you think about it, the dude is the guy who did all this. And sure, he tries to make it right basically by, you know, with the whole American Werewolf in London lore, where it's like, if I kill myself, the thing will go away because the bond will be broken basically, and she'll be free. But the movie literally freaking ends when the dude, you know, overdoses on sleeping medication. And sure, the chick comes back, but she's crying, and there are the bodies of like all of her friends like lying on the floor around her, and it's clear, and probably via forensics, that she physically killed all of them. So it's like, what sort of life is she looking for after this? And again, she did nothing wrong, really, you know. It was all on behalf of this dude. And the credits roll, like begin rolling basically with like on the static of the TV screen, and you can just hear her like sobs in the background. And I'm like, dude, that is so messed up, but like in a good way, you know, like it's such a, you know, it does have like a faint, very faint in certain scenes, like sense of humor. But like for the most part, this movie was meant to kind of like get under your skin, and I really dig that. I also like the fact that Andy Richter has a very small part in this movie for some reason. That's kind of cool. But yeah, guys, who's seen Obsession? If you haven't, like if you're a horror movie nut, I would absolutely recommend. I would really, this is the type of horror movie you want to see in theaters, in my opinion. Is there anybody out there who didn't care for it, or do you think that it was too derivative of other things like that Twilight Zone episode that already exists? Let me know whatever you think. I appreciate you watching, and that's all she wrote.